My girlfriend yelled in front of everyone that I would never be good enough for her. I smiled and said softly that maybe she was right. Then I turned around, got in my car, and drove away without looking back. Hours later, one of her friends texted me about what she said after I left. I'm writing this from my apartment at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep and my mind won't stop replaying what happened tonight. My hands are still shaking. My phone won't stop buzzing with messages I haven't read yet. And I keep thinking about that moment when I walked away, wondering if I made the right choice or if I just threw away 3 years of my life over one bad night. My name is Jake. I'm 28. Until about 6 hours ago, I had a girlfriend named Madison. We'd been together for 3 years. I thought we were solid. I thought we were building toward something permanent. I thought I knew her. I was wrong about all of it. Let me back up and give you some context, because none of this makes sense without understanding who Madison is and who I am. Madison comes from money. Real money. Her father owns a chain of luxury car dealerships across the state. Her mother is a prominent real estate attorney. She grew up in a mansion, went to private schools, summered in the Hamptons. She's beautiful, confident, and used to getting what she wants. When we met 3 years ago at a mutual friend's party, I couldn't believe she was interested in me. I'm a high school teacher. I teach history at a public school in a working-class neighborhood. I make $52,000 a year. I drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic. I rent a modest apartment. I'm not poor, but I'm solidly middle class. My parents were both teachers too. I grew up in a small house in the suburbs. We were comfortable but never wealthy. When Madison and I started dating, the financial difference didn't seem to matter. She said she loved that I was passionate about teaching, that I cared about making a difference instead of just making money. She said her ex-boyfriends had all been corporate guys who bored her to death. She said I was different, authentic, real. For the first year, it was great. We'd go to her fancy events and my casual hangouts. She'd dress down for pizza with my teacher friends and I'd dress up for cocktail parties with her family. It felt like we were bridging 2 worlds successfully. But over time, cracks started showing. Madison would make little comments about my car being embarrassing, about my apartment being too small to host dinner parties, about my salary making it hard to do the things she wanted to do. She never said it meanly, always framed it as concern or gentle suggestions. But the message was clear. I wasn't measuring up. Her parents never liked me. Her dad made that obvious from day one. He'd ask me questions about my career plans that were really just ways to highlight that I'd never make much money. Her mother was more subtle but equally dismissive. At family dinners, they'd talk about investments and property values and business deals while I sat there silently, having nothing to contribute. Madison would defend me sometimes, but other times she'd join in the criticism. She'd joke about my profession or my income in ways that felt increasingly less like jokes and more like actual complaints. Still, I loved her. I overlooked the comments because I thought we had something real. I thought love mattered more than money. I thought we were partners. Tonight was supposed to be special. It was Madison's birthday. She'd planned a dinner at an expensive French restaurant downtown. She'd invited about 20 people. Her friends, her coworkers, a few family members. She'd also invited some of my friends, which I'd thought was sweet. My best friend Chris was there, along with 2 other teachers I'm close with. The restaurant was the kind of place where the menu doesn't list prices and the waiter describes each dish like it's a work of art. I'd looked at the menu online beforehand and nearly had a heart attack. Entrees were $75 to $120. I'd been saving for weeks to afford my meal plus covering Madison's, as I'd insisted on doing since it was her birthday. The dinner started fine. People were drinking wine, laughing, sharing stories. Madison was in her element, holding court at the head of the table, looking stunning in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I sat beside her, smiling, trying to keep up with conversations about exotic vacations and luxury brands that I knew nothing about. About halfway through dinner, Madison's friend Courtney started talking about her recent engagement. She was showing off her ring, which was massive, and talking about her fiancé's proposal. He'd rented out an entire restaurant and hired a string quartet and flown in her parents from across the country. Everyone was gushing over it. The conversation naturally turned to proposals and weddings and future plans. One of Madison's coworkers, a woman named Tara who'd had too much wine, looked at Madison and me and said something like, "So when are you two getting engaged? You've been together forever." Madison laughed awkwardly. "Soon, I hope. Jake knows what I want." She'd been dropping hints about engagement for months. Not subtle hints. Direct statements about ring styles she liked, venue options she'd been researching, timelines she had in mind. I'd been saving money, slowly, planning to propose sometime in the next year when I could afford the kind of ring she wanted. But the way she said it tonight, with that edge in her voice, made it clear she was frustrated with the waiting. Tara, still drunk, pushed further. "What's the holdup, Jake? You know Madison's a catch. Better lock her down before someone else does." I tried to laugh it off. I said something about wanting to do it right, wanting to make sure I could give Madison the proposal she deserved. Madison's face changed. I saw the shift happen in real time. Her smile became tight. Her eyes went cold. Her father, who was sitting a few seats down, decided to chime in. He said something like, "Take your time, Jake. These things require financial planning. You want to make sure you can provide appropriately." It was condescending as hell, but I bit my tongue. I dealt with Madison's father's comments for 3 years. I wasn't going to start a fight at her birthday dinner. But then Madison spoke up. She said, "It's not just about the money. It's about ambition, about drive, about wanting more from life than just being comfortable." The table got quiet. Everyone sensed the tension. I looked at Madison. "What are you saying?" She'd had a lot of wine. Her face was flushed and her words came out sharp. "I'm saying that I've been patient. I've been understanding. But Jake, you've been teaching at the same school for 6 years. You've never tried for administration positions. You've never pursued any higher-paying opportunities. You're content to just coast." That stung. I wasn't coasting. I loved teaching. I was good at it. I'd won Teacher of the Year at my school 2 years ago. I mentored new teachers. I ran the debate club. I made a difference in kids' lives every single day. I said quietly, "I'm happy with my career. I thought you respected that." Madison laughed. Not a happy laugh. A bitter, frustrated laugh. "Happy doesn't pay for the life I want, Jake. Happy doesn't get us the house I want or the vacations I want or the future I want." The entire table was watching us now. My friends looked uncomfortable. Madison's friends were watching like it was entertainment. I took a breath. "Madison, can we talk about this later? Privately?" "No." She was getting worked up now, her voice rising. "I'm tired of talking about it privately. I'm tired of having the same conversation where you promise you'll think about other opportunities but never actually do anything. I'm tired of defending you to my parents. I'm tired of making excuses for why we can't afford things." "Madison," I said again, more firmly this time. "Not here." But she wasn't listening. She'd crossed some line in her head, and she was going to say what she'd apparently been holding in for a long time. She stood up. The whole table was staring now. And then she said it, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You'll never be good enough for me." The restaurant wasn't even that loud, but it felt like the whole place went silent. The other diners nearby definitely heard. The waiter who was approaching our table froze. I sat there for a moment, feeling like I'd been slapped. Everyone was looking at me, waiting to see what I'd do. My friends looked horrified. Madison's friends had various expressions ranging from shock to something that looked almost like satisfaction, as if they'd been waiting for this. I could have yelled back. I could have said all the things I was thinking about, how she was shallow and materialistic and how her priorities were screwed up. I could have made a scene. But I didn't. I stood up slowly. I looked at Madison, who was still standing there, breathing hard, her face red with anger and wine, and I smiled. A small, sad smile. I said very quietly so only the people closest to us could hear, "Maybe you're right." Then I turned around and walked out of the restaurant. I heard someone call my name behind me, but I didn't look back. I walked out to the parking lot, got in my Honda Civic and drove away. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove, put on some music and drove through the city, my mind completely blank. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry. I just felt empty. like something that had been part of my life for 3 years had just been surgically removed. I drove for about 2 hours. Eventually, I ended up at a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of town. I went in, ordered coffee and pie, and just sat there trying to process what had happened. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since I left the restaurant. I'd been ignoring it. But finally, around 11 p.m., I looked. I had 43 text messages and 12 missed calls. Most were from Madison. The first few were angry. "Where did you go? How dare you walk out? You embarrassed me. You ruined my birthday." Then they shifted to defensive. "I didn't mean it like that. You're overreacting. Come back so we can talk." Then they turned pleading. "Please answer me. I'm worried. I love you." I was just upset. I had messages from some of her friends too. Most of them seemed to be taking her side, telling me I'd overreacted, that Madison was drunk and upset and I should have stayed to work it out. But I also had messages from my friends. Chris had texted, "Dude, you okay? That was intense. Call me when you can." The other teachers had sent similar messages of support. And then, at 11:47 p.m., I got a text from Courtney, Madison's friend, the one who'd been showing off her engagement ring earlier. The text said, "You know what she said after you left?" I stared at that message for a long time. Did I want to know? Part of me wanted to just delete it and move on. But I couldn't help myself. I typed back, "What?" 3 dots appeared immediately, showing she was typing. Then, she said that she thought you'd beg her to take you back. That you'd come crawling back because you couldn't do better than her. She was laughing about it with some of her friends. She said you'd be back by tomorrow apologizing and that she'd make you grovel before she forgave you. My stomach twisted. I read the message 3 times. Then Courtney sent another text. "I'm only telling you this because I think you deserve to know who she really is. She's been saying stuff like this about you for months to her friends. About how you're holding her back, how she could do better but she's invested too much time to start over. I always thought it was awful but I didn't want to get involved. But after tonight, seeing how she humiliated you in front of everyone, I think you should know the truth." Another text came through. "She doesn't respect you, Jake. She never has. She sees you as a project to fix or a charity case to manage. You deserve someone who appreciates you for who you are, not someone who's constantly trying to change you into something else." I sat in that diner booth, staring at my phone, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Hurt, obviously, anger, but also relief, clarity, because Courtney was right. Madison had never really respected me. She'd loved the idea of me, maybe the passionate teacher who cared about kids and made a difference. But she'd never actually respected my choices, my career, my life. She'd always seen them as temporary conditions that she could improve once she molded me into what she wanted. I'd been so focused on trying to be enough for her that I'd never stopped to ask if she was enough for me. I texted Courtney back, "Thank you for telling me. I appreciate it." She responded, "You're a good guy, Jake. You're going to find someone who sees that. Madison isn't that person." I stayed at the diner until about 1 a.m. Then I drove home to my modest apartment that Madison had always complained about. I walked in and looked around at my space, my books on the shelves, my framed photos of students I'd taught, my comfortable but not expensive furniture, my small kitchen where I made meals I enjoyed. And I realized something. I liked my life. I was proud of what I did. I made $52,000 a year, but I helped teenagers learn to think critically and engage with history and develop their voices. I'd had students come back years later to tell me I'd changed their lives, inspired them to pursue careers, helped them get through difficult times. That mattered. That meant something. And Madison had never understood that because she measured worth in dollars instead of impact. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Madison. This one said, "I'm coming over. We need to talk." I typed back quickly, "No, don't come here. We're done." Dots appeared immediately. "You're breaking up with me over text? After 3 years?" I responded, "You broke us up when you humiliated me in front of everyone tonight. When you told me I'd never be good enough for you. You were right about that. I'll never be good enough for you. But not because I'm lacking. Because what you want isn't what I am, and I'm not going to spend the rest of my life trying to become someone else to meet your standards. I'm sorry I wasted your time. I'm sorry I wasn't the corporate climber with the fat bank account that you actually wanted. But I'm not sorry for who I am or what I do. I'm a good teacher. I help kids. That matters to me even if it doesn't matter to you. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Her response came fast. You're going to regret this. You're nothing without me. No one else is going to want a broke teacher who drives a piece of shit car and lives in a crappy apartment. I stared at that message for a long moment. Then I typed, maybe, but at least I'll be with someone who doesn't think those things define my worth. I blocked her number. Then I blocked her on social media. Clean break. Now I'm sitting here at 2 a.m., writing this all out, trying to process the fact that my 3-year relationship ended tonight in the most humiliating way possible. But here's the thing. I don't actually feel devastated. I feel free, lighter, like I've been carrying around the weight of Madison's expectations and her family's judgment and her constant disappointment. And suddenly that weight is gone. I keep thinking about what she said. You'll never be good enough for me. She meant it as an insult, as proof that I was lacking. But she was right, just not in the way she thought. I'll never be good enough for someone who measures worth by income and status. I'll never be good enough for someone who sees my career as a failure instead of a calling. I'll never be good enough for someone who's embarrassed by who I am. And I don't want to be, because being enough for Madison meant becoming someone I'm not. It meant abandoning the work I love. It meant pursuing money over meaning. It meant spending my life trying to impress people like her parents who would never actually accept me anyway. That's not the life I want. My phone is buzzing again. It's Chris. I should probably answer, let him know I'm okay. But first, I want to finish this thought. To anyone reading this who's in a relationship with someone who makes you feel like you're not enough, pay attention to that feeling. Ask yourself if you're actually not enough, or if you're just not enough for this particular person. Ask yourself if their standards are reasonable or if they're asking you to be someone you're not. Madison wanted me to be ambitious in the way she defined ambition. She wanted me to pursue money and status and prestige. But I am ambitious. I'm ambitious about making a difference. I'm ambitious about being a good teacher. I'm ambitious about helping kids develop critical thinking skills and find their voices and become engaged citizens. That's not less valuable than pursuing corporate success. It's just different. And the right person would understand that. Madison wasn't the right person. I spent 3 years trying to make her the right person, trying to be enough for her, trying to bridge the gap between our worlds. But some gaps can't be bridged. Some differences are fundamental. I'm 28 years old. I just got humiliated in front of 20 people at an expensive French restaurant. I just ended a 3-year relationship via text message. I'm probably going to be the subject of gossip among Madison's social circle for weeks. But I'm also free from a relationship where I was constantly being judged and found wanting. I'm free from the pressure to be someone I'm not. I'm free from the weight of someone else's expectations. And honestly, that feels pretty good. Tomorrow I'll deal with the fallout. I'll talk to my friends. I'll process the hurt and the anger and all the complicated emotions. I'll probably eat a lot of ice cream and watch bad TV and feel sorry for myself for a while. But tonight, sitting here in my apartment that Madison hated, I feel okay. Better than okay, actually. Because maybe I'm not good enough for Madison and her lifestyle and her expectations. But I'm good enough for myself. And I'm good enough for my students. And I'm good enough for the work I do every day. That's enough. Update 2 days later. I'm adding this because the situation has developed in ways I didn't expect and people have been asking for updates. First, thank you to everyone who reached out with supportive messages. My phone exploded after Chris shared my original post with some mutual friends, and it's been overwhelming but in a good way. Knowing I'm not crazy for walking away means more than you know. Second, the fallout has been intense. Madison has been trying to contact me through every channel possible since I blocked her. She had her friends text me. She showed up at my apartment building yesterday. She even tried calling my school. I haven't responded to any of it. But Courtney has been keeping me updated on what's happening in Madison's circle. And apparently it's chaos. The day after the restaurant incident, Madison's version of events started spreading. I'd overreacted to a minor comment, ruined her birthday by walking out, and broken up with her via text like a coward. She painted herself as the victim of my immaturity. But here's what she didn't count on. Multiple people at that dinner saw what actually happened. My friends were there. Some of Madison's coworkers who didn't particularly like her were there. And people started talking. Courtney told me that by the next day, Madison's coworkers were sharing the real story. The loud public humiliation. The viciousness of what she'd said. The fact that I'd stayed calm and just walked away with dignity. Apparently, it wasn't a good look for Madison. Several people have reached out to me privately saying they'd always found her treatment of me uncomfortable. One of her friends, Alicia, texted me saying she tried to tell Madison months ago that she was being disrespectful, but Madison had brushed her off. Madison's parents, predictably, are blaming me. I got a long email from her father about how I'd embarrassed their family and shown my true colors. I deleted it without finishing it. But the most unexpected thing happened yesterday morning. I was at school, teaching my third period class about the civil rights movement, when I got called to the principal's office. My stomach dropped. I thought maybe Madison had complained about something or caused trouble. But when I got there, my principal, Dr. Chun, had a strange expression on her face. She asked me to sit down and said someone was there to see me. Madison's mother walked in. I almost walked right back out. But Dr. Chun gave me a look that said to hear her out, so I stayed. Madison's mother, Linda, looked uncomfortable. She sat down and was quiet for a moment before speaking. She said, "I owe you an apology." Several apologies, actually. I didn't say anything, just waited. She continued, "My husband and I have been watching Madison treat you poorly for a long time. We told ourselves it wasn't our place to interfere. But the truth is, we encouraged it. We made it clear we didn't think you were good enough for our daughter, and that gave her permission to treat you as less than." I still didn't speak. Linda took a breath. After what happened at dinner, I had some difficult conversations with Madison. She told me things she's been saying about you to her friends. How she's been mocking you behind your back while playing the supportive girlfriend to your face. How she was planning to pressure you into proposing and then slowly change you into what she wanted. And I realized that we raised a woman who thinks love is about control and status instead of partnership and respect. She looked genuinely upset. "I'm not here to ask you to take her back. You shouldn't. She doesn't deserve you. I'm here to apologize for my role in making you feel unwelcome in our family. You're a good man doing important work. The fact that it doesn't come with a six-figure salary doesn't diminish its value. I'm ashamed that I made you feel otherwise." I didn't know what to say. Of all the outcomes I'd imagined, Madison's mother showing up at my school to apologize wasn't one of them. Finally I said, "Thank you for saying that. It means something." Linda nodded. She pulled out an envelope and handed it to me. "This is a check for the dinner the other night. I know you were planning to pay for Madison's meal. You shouldn't have to bear that cost after what she did." I tried to refuse, but she insisted, so I took it. Before she left, she said one more thing. "I hope you find someone who appreciates you, Jake. You deserve that." Then she left. I sat in Dr. Chen's office for a few minutes, processing. Dr. Chun finally said, "Everything okay?" I laughed. "Honestly, I have no idea." She smiled. "Well, for what it's worth, you're an excellent teacher and this school is lucky to have you. Don't let anyone make you question that." I went back to my classroom and taught the rest of my day, but my mind was spinning. That evening, I finally talked to Chris over beers. I told him everything that had happened. He listened, then said, "So Madison's mom apologized, but Madison hasn't?" "Nope. She's still telling everyone I overreacted and ruined her birthday." Chris shook his head. "You dodged a bullet, man. 3 more years with her and you'd have been miserable." I'm realizing that. I think I've been miserable for a while, but I was too invested to admit it. "What are you going to do now?" I thought about it. "I don't know. Focus on work. Hang out with friends who don't make me feel like shit about my life choices. Maybe try dating again eventually. Find someone who doesn't see me as a fixer-upper project." Chris raised his beer. "To finding someone who likes Honda Civics and teacher salaries." I laughed and clinked bottles with him. It's been 2 days since the restaurant. I'm still processing everything. I still have moments where I question if I overreacted, if I should have stayed and tried to work it out. But then I remember Madison's face when she screamed that I'd never be good enough for her. I remember the satisfaction in some of her friends' expressions, like they'd been waiting for her to finally say what they'd all been thinking. I remember 3 years of small cuts and criticisms that I'd brushed off as jokes or misunderstandings. And I remember the relief I felt driving away, the lightness, the sense of freedom. I made the right choice. I'm 28. I'm single. I'm a teacher making $52,000 a year. I drive a Honda Civic and live in a modest apartment. And for the first time in 3 years, I feel good about all of that. Madison was right about one thing. I'll never be good enough for her. But that's okay, because she was never good enough for me either. Final update 1 week later. One last update because something happened that I need to share. Madison showed up at my apartment last night. I don't know how she got past the building security, but there was a knock on my door at 9 p.m. and there she was. She looked terrible. No makeup, sweatpants, hair in a messy bun. Not the polished version of Madison I was used to seeing. I almost closed the door, but something made me pause. She said, "Please, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Against my better judgment, I let her in. We sat in my living room. The one she'd always complained was too small and too outdated. She started crying immediately. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was drunk and stupid and I said things I didn't mean." "You meant them. Maybe you didn't mean to say them out loud, but you meant them." She shook her head. "I was frustrated. I was feeling pressured by my friends and my parents and I took it out on you. But Jake, I love you. We can work through this." I was quiet for a moment. Then I said, "Do you respect me?" "What? Do you respect me?" "Respect what I do for a living, respect my choices, respect who I am as a person." Madison hesitated just a fraction of a second too long before saying yes. That hesitation told me everything. "I don't think you do. I think you love me despite who I am, not because of who I am. You love me while constantly wishing I was someone else. That's not love, Madison. That's a project." She started crying harder. "I can change. I can be better. I'll stop criticizing you. I'll support your career. But you don't support my career. You see it as something to tolerate until I move on to something better. And Madison, I don't want to move on to something better. I love teaching. It's what I'm meant to do. I'm good at it. It matters. And I need to be with someone who understands that." "I'm not that person," she said quietly. "No, you're not." We sat in silence for a while. Then Madison said something that surprised me. "My mom told me what she did. Going to your school to apologize." "Yeah." "That was unexpected. She said I need therapy, that I have issues with control and status and self-worth. She said I treat relationships like transactions and people like accessories." Madison looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "She's right, isn't she?" "I think she might be." More silence. Finally Madison stood up. "I'm going to work on myself. Go to therapy. Figure out why I'm like this. But Jake, I need you to know that I did love you. I do love you. I'm just not capable of loving you the way you deserve right now." I walked her to the door. I said, "I hope you figure it out, Madison. I really do. Not for me, but for you. Because the way you are now, you're going to end up alone no matter how much money you make or how successful you become." She nodded and left. I closed the door and stood there for a while, feeling an odd mix of sadness and peace. That felt like closure. Real closure. This morning I woke up and the first thing I thought wasn't about Madison. It was about lesson plans for my classes this week. About the debate tournament my club is competing in next month. About my actual life, not the drama. That felt good. I'm moving on. I'm going to keep teaching. Keep making a difference. Keep living my life according to my values, not someone else's standards.